In a key hearing on censorship versus the possibility of TV programs creating social unrest, the Supreme Court continues to hear a plea against the controversial Sudarshan TV's UPSC Jihad program, touted as a so-called big expose on the conspiracy regarding Muslims allegedly infiltrating government service. Now, the hearing is over for the day. The stay on airing continues, though Sudarshan News has been given an opportunity to address the concerns of the court on the need to ensure that an entire community is not stereotyped. During the hearing, the court observed, while we respect the freedom of media, let this message go to the media as well, that any community shouldn't become a target. Ultimately, we all exist as a nation which must be cohesive and not against any community. Arunachalam Vaidyanathan was in court and joins us now. He was there listening on all of the points. Now, Sudarshan TV has been given an opportunity to rectify the program, right? As I understand it, they need to convince the court of steps they will take to ensure that the Muslim community is not stereotyped. Is that what the court expects?
Exactly, Vishnu. In fact, one of the judges, Justice Indu Malhotra, was a part of the bench, said that she has seen the program and she pointed out of the green flag and the lamb and the all green T-shirt, all these things. She said it's completely divisive commentary. These should be taken out. So they're given an opportunity. Mr. Shyam Diwan, the senior counsel for the Sudarshan News, said that he will come back. He will address the concerns of the court and probably he will file and probably affidavit tomorrow or day after tomorrow. But the case will be taken up on Monday at 2 p.m. But interestingly, the discussion went on to the powers of the National Broadcaster Association about its powers, whether it can do or not. So particularly Justice Chandrachud was saying that it's a toothless body, you just fine 1 lakh rupee. He also said that whether the members do see the TV program or not. But of course, NBA's counsel said that even courts have commended that there were penalties. But court said that even a retired Supreme Court judge who is heading that authority for penalizing the channels, he is also powerless. So he asked the government to come up with something so that self-regulatory body can be in place with more powers. Anyway, this will be addressed on Monday afternoon when the court takes up the case again.
All right, Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, thanks very much for being with us on that. We're joined now by Madhu Trehan, who's obviously been looking very, very closely. But before we go across to Madhu, let's go across to Ratan Sharda. Mr. Sharda, one of the points that came up in court, this is what the court said: self-regulation cannot be a standalone issue. The government has to give them some teeth. Is this potentially a cause of concern, that the government deciding that agencies which actually are independent of the government are given certain powers? Is that in a way interference by itself?
Being from RSS, which has faced the worst kind of hate mongering on TVs for years together, I understand what is hate mongering. But RSS never asked for any ban on any TV channel or any penalizing of the TV channels. It fought on bravely with all those issues. My worry is not government. My worry is courts themselves.
Sorry, your worry is what?
Even courts.
Courts, right.
Why did the court stop the trial coverage of Bishop Mulakkal? Was it right? I think the right way is the self-regulation, which when earlier the issue came about these censorships and these kind of controls.
Let's answer that on the basis of what the court has said, Mr. Sharda. And this is what came up today. There are many half-truths in the show. That's one of the points which the court actually said.
No, Vishnu,
right?
I am saying it is for the media itself.
No, but the entire issue of stereotyping a particular community is what the court is worried about. That's what they keep saying over here, right? The allegation which the government is, I beg your pardon, the court is looking at is whether members of the Muslim community, in fact the entire Muslim community, is being stereotyped in a particular way. Now that's completely wrong. It doesn't matter what faith they are, no community can be stereotyped.
Yes, whether it's electronic media, whether it's print media, no should be stereotyped.
Right.
And that is happening to every community. So this must stop.
Right, it must stop for all communities is your point, right? So therefore, sir, since you agree that this has to stop for all communities, do you also believe that there should be no programs which stereotype the Muslim community either?
How do you counter that? I mean, how do you decide which is stereotyping them? If you quote a verse from Quran, are you stereotyping? If we show different discrepancies in different parts of the world, are you stereotyping? No, you are not. The image will be built in the viewer's mind after looking at hundreds.
So if
news,
the court is to say, and this is an
stereotyping.
observation and not an order, that there are many half-truths in the show, if the court is to point out particular scenes as they have, for example, with the use of flames and what it sort of invokes or what it seems to suggest, is the court not, are you suggesting the court is wrong in making these observations?
I am not saying court is wrong. I am saying why courts are deciding on random basis. I gave an example, Mulakal. I gave an example of this particular jihad, so-called jihad program.
Okay.
My question is, why do you take one thing at a time? If they are giving
No,
a blanket,
because the issue, the issue is of self-regulation and how it's failed at so many levels. Madhu Trehan,
for example,
Shraddhaji, just one sec, I'll come back to you. Shraddhaji, I'll come back to you. Let me just go across to Madhu Trehan. Madhu, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hi, Madhu. Vishnu here. Can you hear me?
Just barely.
All right, I'll try and speak loudly. We are on air. I'll try and speak a bit loudly. What came up in court on this issue was the court saying that the News Broadcasters Association, the NBA, is essentially toothless. It can impose a maximum fine of 1 lakh. And NBA only has certain members. This Sudarshan TV is not even a part of that. And that self-regulation by itself cannot be a standalone thing. It's got problems. So is that the core, is that the root of the problem over here? That we want independence in the media, we want to quote-unquote punish our own members if they violate standards, but the system itself is essentially flawed. There are some who take advantage of it.
Well, I don't think the system is flawed. This is what democracy is. You cannot control the media. Even if you have associations and you have the press council, all of them are toothless because it's designed to be so. That's the point. Unless you become Russia or China, where it is controlled, this is how it's going to be. So we do have to depend on self-restraint, and self-restraint is obviously not working.
Right.
So this dilemma of expecting people to be responsible citizens is also not working. What is the solution? I think the solution lies on the viewers and the readers who used it as votes. If they stop watching hate-mongering and one-sided, agenda-driven journalism, that is where the solution is. And the problem is right now journalism has become so agenda-driven that viewers will only go to those channels which validate their own views. And in fact, I think that we've had a history of a wonderful time where the Indian public was highly skeptical, a skeptical public that didn't believe what they saw on TV. They didn't necessarily believe they never believed what the politicians say, I would go so far as to say, and they were skeptical of journalism as such until it was proven. They saw for themselves that it was proven so. Right now, opinions, slanted stuff, they look for stuff which validates their views, and that is the problem. Because right now, our citizens are the problem, that we are feeding into this. And these people believe that they're going to get their advertising through high TRPs, and that's the thing. So we're collectively responsible.
Right, and so therefore, Madhu,
or any association or any council or any law has been able to.
No, it hasn't. It's not. It's absolutely not. And in as much as we value our independence, the fact of the matter is our independence has resulted in the situation precisely as you describe it. However, the court today said the government has to give them some teeth. In other words, the News Broadcasters Association is what the court was referring to over here. Even a former judge of this court has written to the government to give the NBA more powers, etc., etc. Is that a way forward? The government telling the NBA, okay, look, this is what you can do beyond that 1 lakh rupee fine?
No, I don't think that's correct, because first of all, not every news organization is a member of the NBA.
And they refer to that, yes.
Yeah, and then also the NBA is not completely objective. You can't say that a group of news organizations won't be vindictive with one against the other. So this is a very hairy situation. I would not hand powers to anybody to do this, because even today, the precedent that the court sets in restraining Sudarshan TV for its very slanted community badgering and focusing, that itself sets its precedent to be used against another news organization, which would be doing the opposite. So
right. And therefore, just 1 second, let me bring Ratan Sharda back in over there. I think Madhu has summed up the dilemma entirely. In the media, we value our independence. We value our right to control ourselves. For all the reasons she said, it doesn't work at all. And it doesn't really work that the court says that, look, these are the powers you have, because within the NBA, there may not be any unanimity on what is right and what is wrong. It's a huge dilemma. In a situation like this, should the government have any role? Or is that something completely inconceivable given, or should the courts have a bigger role? Mr. Sharda, forget the government. Should the courts have a bigger role in deciding what works and what doesn't?
See, unless there is a clear case of blatant hate mongering which doesn't have facts on its side, evidence on its side, nobody should interfere.
But there is hate mongering on a daily basis. See, that's the dilemma.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be hate mongering against an entire community. Television news at so many levels in India is premised on hate mongering. Hate mongering is what brings in viewers. Madhu, half a second, Mr. Sharda. Mr. Sharda, so therefore, what will the courts do? Will courts adjudicate daily hate mongering on some program on the other in 24-hour news channels? Mr. Sharda, is that at all a solution?
No, I'm not saying it's a solution.
No,
I've clearly said your industrial body needs to be much more stronger. They need to have much more objectivity in their body. There should be somebody where everybody is a member.
But we've been saying this for the last, NBA has been around for how long? A decade plus. We will be more objective, more transparent. We will ensure more fines go out. We will ensure that broadcasters cannot do this or that. We will ensure everything is present. It's kosher, it's happy, children can watch it, national security, but it doesn't work. So Madhu, as among the senior most editors in this country, you've identified the dilemma. It's unreasonable to expect the courts to be dealing with this on a 24-hour basis. We certainly don't want the government to be involved. So then what?
I just want to take issue with one statement that was made, that the government is not involved. The government is involved in every part of the media, whether it gives advertising or withholds advertising.
Right.
Whether there are messages sent where everyone feels there's a sword hanging over their heads. There is a huge involvement in planting stories. There's a huge involvement in disinformation. There is a huge involvement. And if you're telling me that there is any news organization that is functioning freely and completely without fear, I don't believe that. I think there is that element of you have to toe the line. And people try to practice journalism in a way, I think many honest journalists try to practice journalism in a way that is honest to their conscience and to the story, but it has become increasingly difficult. And when you have...
But Madhu, are you saying that it didn't happen in earlier 70 years?
Sorry?
Honestly, do you see that earlier there was no arm twisting earlier? No, are you saying that? For last 7 decades, this was totally free.
I've never...
There was no arm twisting ever.
But you see, there's a difference. Please understand one thing. There's a difference. The fact is that when I was practicing journalism 25 years ago, 20 years ago, we always could appeal to the courts. I have been to the courts many times and appealed a story that was being banned or censored and won because the judges were supporting free journalism.
Oh.
I went to Mumbai to the appellate court tribunal who tried to stop the censor board tried to stop the Ayodhya case.
That's a huge
and
allegation.
Justice Lenton then passed an order saying that not only should this be allowed to be seen by, it must be seen, required viewing for every citizen of India. Where are the judges today who would support journalism like that?
No, but Madhu, let me jump in over there. I do believe if you look at what's happening right now in this particular court, repeated statements observations by the judge which say that, look, we don't want to involve ourselves. Look, it is important to have, and let me just try and see if I can find a couple of these statements. It is easy for us to intervene, but that can cause fear if we intervene in all cases like this. The question is creating a systematic framework for judicial intervention. Even in this particular case, the court said that, look, we don't want to ban this indefinitely. We want to give that option to the broadcasters to satisfy us that, look, they're not going to end up stereotyping any community. So the judge is saying quite clearly, look, we aren't happy about a ban. So I think, I would disagree somewhat with you, Madhu. In this particular case, in this hearing, there is a huge debate happening on censorship versus the need to ensure that social our social fabric is not damaged in any way. Would you agree, Madhu, that the judge is looking at this?
I don't believe in censorship at all. I think censorship can mean that it muzzles everybody. So it's not just that if you censor this person because there's been hate mongering and targeting a particular community, tomorrow it can be used on somebody else on the opposite spectrum. So absolutely censorship is not the answer. Giving tooth, as we said, to other journalistic bodies such as the NBA or the Press Council also puts in all kinds of people with agendas who would be taking it out on each other. So then again there's a problem. I'm saying that the only solution is with having an aware, educated viewership and readership who will reject these kind of programs, and when they see that the TRPs are low for this kind of program, which is hate mongering, they will change their tag.
Mr. Sharda, is it not enough? Is it not
Madhu,
time to talk about the elephant in the room? The nature of broadcasting in this country is dependent on advertising revenue. That advertising revenue is, there is no other primary source of income for any television news channel. Therefore, if there is sensational news, it attracts eyeballs. You get what is called reach. And on the basis of that, you get advertising revenue. If that blurring of the line between entertainment and news isn't somehow sorted out, we would have this conversation for the next 10 years, right? Where is news and where is entertainment now? There's hardly any news. There's very few news channels.
Vishnu, with all due respect, though I don't agree with many of your views when we debate, but I do see that NDTV has not gone down in its way it's reporting its news. Still the TRP has not worked. So to blame the viewers of not being good enough, not being sensitized, who will do that?
So Sharda ji, just so that we know, the system of measuring ratings is also, we believe, quite problematic. That's a separate debate. So
yes,
that statement of yours is, I can assure you, inaccurate about the ratings. It's completely inaccurate. And there are different measures of that.
Yes.
Now, Vishnu, that's one issue, that's a story that NDTV really should take up, which is that how are the TRPs measured? You know that's a faulty thing. You know that the BARC measures numbers are questionable. There have been many stories done on that.
And there is existing technology to sort that out. It has to be legislated.
And it is still being used as a benchmark.
As the only currency.
For advertisers. And advertisers are following it in some sort of bhedchal way without questioning it themselves. And do people really want to watch this kind of agenda-driven, hate-mongering, targeting communities, any community?
And why call it news then? Why call it news? That's not news. That can be something else. You can call it infotainment, entertainment, or just out-and-out hate. It's not news.
Vishnu,
there's no content.
The other thing that what we are seeing, since we're talking about it, what we're seeing is that every allegation is treated as guilt. That person is guilty.
Right.
There is no fair trial, and I've even been used this phrase of media trial. I've heard a journalist ask a person she's interviewing, saying, "Why is Rhea running away from a media trial?" So now media trial has been legitimized as a phrase that it should be done. What could be more dangerous than that?
We've seen what's happened in so many cases recently. Sharda ji, last 30 seconds, last comment to you before I take a break. Go ahead, sir.
See, as I said, courts should not interfere, government should not interfere. It's up to media to come together and decide their standards, their way of having an objective view of news and attacks on editors or on news vending. It has to be decided. And regarding TRP, please go ahead and expose what is the racket. For as far as I am concerned, I have refused to go on any of these so-called murder or suicide cases. That is the way we should be. We can discern whether I want to join a particular debate or particular viewpoint. It's for me to decide. Similarly, it's to users to decide. As I said, I respect your subtle way of news. And as I said, I respect your view of not going by the sensational way. But then it will take time for viewers to understand that they are making what you call a typical Reja fry by the night.
So we also really need to get that. It gets back to that point. What exactly is the viewer watching, right? Is he or she watching what you think they're watching on the basis of a certain set of ratings? No answer to that as yet. It's a lot more complicated. I'll end it over here by just repeating what an observation of the court was. While we respect freedom of media, let this message go to the media as well, that any community shouldn't become a target Ultimately, we all exist as a nation which must be cohesive and not against any community. We take a short break, come back with more.